Hey there, guys. Have you heard of, or have you seen the article in the New York Times or anywhere else for that matter, where the U.S. is developing a marine base for Australia and it's irritating China? President Obama announced Wednesday that the United States planned to deploy 2,500 Marines in Australia to shore up alliances in Asia, but the move prompted a sharp response from Beijing, which accused Mr. Obama of escalating military tensions in the region. The agreement with Australia amounts to the first long-term expansion of the American military's presence in the Pacific since the end of the Vietnam War. It comes despite budget cuts facing the Pentagon and an increasingly worried reaction from Chinese leaders who have argued that the United States is seeking to encircle China militarily and economically. Okay, now let me just park right there for a few seconds because this is something that confuses me, is that despite budget cuts, we're able to create a base in Australia. I mean, first of all, where do we get the money to do this? Don't a large percentage of the money we borrow to finance things like this come from China? Anyway,
It may not be quite appropriate to intensify and expand military alliances, and may not be in the interest of countries within this region.
that's according to a foreign ministry spokesman, said in response to the announcement by Mr. Obama and Prime Minister Julia Gillard of Australia. In an address to the Australian Parliament on Thursday morning, Mr. Obama said he had made a deliberate and strategic decision. As a Pacific nation, the United States will play a large and long-term role in shaping this region and its future. The president said the moves were not intended to isolate China, but they were an unmistakable sign that the United States had grown warier of its intentions.
China has invested heavily in military modernization and has begun to deploy long-range aircraft and a more able deep-sea naval force, and it has asserted territorial claims to disputed islands that would give it broad sway over oil and gas rights in the East and South China Seas.
The new military commitment is relatively modest. Mr. Obama has promoted it as the cornerstone of a strategy to confront more directly the challenge posed by China's rapid advances as an economic and military power. He has also made some progress in creating a new Pacific Free Trade Zone that will give America's free market allies in the region some trading privileges that do not immediately extend to China. Mr. Obama described the deployment as responding to the wishes of democratic allies in the region from Japan to India. Some allies have expressed concern that the United States, facing war fatigue and a slacking economy, will cede its leadership role to China. And I can absolutely see why they would feel that way, because that is apparently what is happening. China is coming on very strong and becoming very aggressive. The president said budget cutting in Washington and the inevitable squeeze on military spending would not inhibit his ability to follow through. Defense cuts will not, I repeat, will not come at the expense of the Asia Pacific, he said. So to me, that is saying a lot. He's basically putting priority, telling us, reading between the line, that what's taking place in this region is becoming a priority. If they have to make cuts, they will, but it won't be in that area. And probably because not only do they want to stop China or deter China from becoming more aggressive in those international waters, but I think the United States see the benefit of being in that region because of its proximity to China, the country itself, if you get my drift. Some analysts in China and elsewhere say they fear that the moves could backfire, risking a Cold War style standoff with China.